All right, so I just hit the record. Let me know if you guys are seeing anything about recording.
I did.
Perfect. Then I will go ahead and admit if you are ready to go.
I am, and when the number gets down to 0 or close to it, I know people are popping in. I'll go ahead and start.
Sounds great.
Okay, good morning. It's 10:01, so we'll get started. Thanks for joining us today to learn more about Licensee, our online self-guided license application platform that is launching on May 16th. I'm Jennifer Garrett. I'm the Director of Public Affairs for the Department of Safety and Professional Services, and I'll be helping with the session today. I'm going to start with introductions. With me today are Dan Harris. He's our Assistant Deputy Secretary, and he's going to be our Master of Ceremonies. I'll be handing things over to him in just a moment. We also have with us Casey Morris. She's our technical expert from our vendor MTX. And then behind the scenes is Kimberly Wood. She is the one who keeps the trains running and on the tracks, and she'll make sure things move and work as smoothly as possible. So before we officially begin the program, I want to go through a few orders of business so that you know what to expect from this session. First of all attendees will be muted throughout the session. Questions will be gathered through the chat. So find and open your chat function, and when you have a question, direct it to me. Use my name, Jennifer Garrett, and that way I'll be sure to see them. Then I will review the questions and I will pose those to Dan and Casey. If there are questions that we do not get to, we'll include answers in our meeting follow-up. We will be sending out an email to all attendees after the session sometime this week. We had a session yesterday, and we'll email everyone together. We're going to gather as many answers as we can, all the information that we can for questions that we can't quite answer yet. That will be forthcoming. So in that email, you'll have an opportunity to sign up for future email updates about Licensee. And so if you want to continue to hear updates from us, please sign up for, click on that link and sign up for those emails. In the follow-up, we will also include a link to some communications tools that you can use on your own platforms. Those tools will include sample newsletter language, infographics, sample social media posts, and other resources that might help you communicate with your stakeholders about this change. Let's see, my script keeps disappearing. And so as you've noticed, we have a sign language interpreter here, and we'll be captioning the sessions as well. The session will be recorded and we'll make it available on our website later this week. And then tomorrow we'll be announcing the times and dates of 2 more Q&A sessions that we'll be offering after the launch on May 16th. To pull up my script again. Okay, so that's all I have. But before I turn things over to Dan, we're going to play a quick video for you, and then Dan will take things from there and tell you a little bit more about the platform and field some of your questions.
This is your future. It's where you want to be and where you want to build your career. You have done the hardest part. Now it's time to put your education and skills to work. You're ready to help keep individuals, families, and communities healthy, happy, and safe. There's just one more step: your license. The Wisconsin Department of Safety and Professional Services is pleased to present Licensee, our online self-guided application system that makes applying for your license as easy as possible. With Licensee, you'll be on your way to joining the workforce and making a difference for the people of Wisconsin. You can create an account, access, complete, and submit an application, review and manage your application and account, and find additional resources and support. Your future is at your fingertips. Visit licensee.wisconsin.gov today and continue your journey to becoming a licensed professional.
I want to thank whoever called me out for being muted, because I got a good paragraph into what I wanted to talk about without actually saying anything to anyone. I just wanted to start out by thanking Jen and Kim and Casey and the whole team here who's joined me to share this information with you all today. Wanted to thank you all for your interest in joining our conversation about this change and the shift to our first fully electronic platform. As Jen mentioned, my name is Dan Harris. I'm the Assistant Deputy Secretary at the Department of Safety and Professional Services. I did want to start with a little bit of history. Some of you may know this, some of you may not. Our department was born in a merger in 2011 out of parts of two departments, and it brought with it a patchwork of paper processes and software systems, many of which still required step-by-step manual intervention by department staff. As we all know, the pandemic has impacted us in many ways, large and small. And as our department has worked diligently to meet needs during the pandemic, one thing became clear, that in order to meet the increasing needs and increasing demands of our licensed occupations, and specifically our healthcare occupations, we needed to implement a solution that was designed for this century. Many of our existing systems have a born-on date of about 1996. To put in perspective, we're going all the way from the Windows 96 to hopefully, I think we're at, I forget what the latest version of Windows is called, but we're bringing us all the way to the current. That's why we partnered with MTX and Salesforce to implement a public sector solution that was built on private sector know-how. During the development, the guiding principle for this project was, how can we empower our customers, our applicants, to drive their applications forward? Every step of this process was built so that we are maximizing the control of the applicant to move the process forward. Today, you will see a video which follows a fictional applicant named Arthur Dent through the license application process. Arthur is applying for an advanced practice nurse prescriber license. While some of the requirements may differ in Arthur's license to a license you may be applying for, the experience will be very, very similar. And I think you'll get a good feel for what's been built for the future of licensing in Wisconsin. So with that, I'd like to invite Kim from our staff to play a demo video. And after that, we'll take questions and do our best to provide you answers. But as Jen mentioned, if we can't answer the question, or if we don't get to the question, we will certainly be circling back via email after to provide answers. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kim.
All right. So upon landing on this homepage, Arthur is going to need to initially register for an account so that he's able to complete and submit his application. So to do that, we'll click on this register for an account button, and that's going to open up a registration form. On that registration form, Arthur would provide things like his first name, last name, email address, set up a password, date of birth, social, his home address, as well as a different mailing address if needed, as well as his phone number. When I click this register button, there are a few things that a couple things that happen. The first thing that's going to happen is I'm going to receive an email from the system notifying me that I've registered for the licensee portal and giving me a link to be able to go and log in on that portal. Along with that, the application will sign me in and bring me to this landing page for applicants. So this is the first page that's seen after an applicant logs into the portal. Once that registration process is completed, we're really at that point ready to begin the application process. And again, Arthur's looking to apply for that advanced practice nurse prescriber license. So I can see I have a question here: what license can we help you apply for today? And a drop down filled with license types. So in this instance, I'm going to choose advanced practice nurse prescriber and click next. The very first screen in the application flow is really one where we're asking which application method are we going to be using to apply for this license. So for today's demo, I'm going to be selecting licensure by examination. And once I'm ready to begin my application, I can then use and click on the next button, which would open up an application flow and really get me into the application proper. Landing on the application flow, the very first step that we run into is our instruction screen with some brief instructions about what needs to be provided and how to complete this application. We can move through to the next step of the application by using the next button. And that's going to bring me to the personal information step of the application. So here we're collecting demographic information, validating that we have the right name, the right date of birth, ethnicity, gender. Also, we have our contact information. And as you can see, that is editable so that if they need to update that information via this application intake flow, they can certainly do that by updating their phone number or changing their home or even changing their mailing address as well. After the user has input all of that information, we have some additional questions based on the advanced practice nurse prescriber, asking whether we've been licensed, what's our primary state of residence, do we currently hold a registered nurse license, and what are our current certifications. So we'll click Save and Next, and that's going to take us to the next step of the application, which is going to be our school information. And as you can see, ahead of time, I've already added in the two schools that our applicant is going to be listing. When I click on this Add School button, it's going to bring up a modal looking just like this. It's going to require me to fill in all of these fields before clicking Done to save that school information. So the school name, the street, the city, the state, the degree, and the graduation date are all required. If someone accidentally clicks this in error, they can use the little X here in the upper right-hand corner to cancel out of that selection. Or if they update the information and click Done, it's going to edit the information in this table. We'll go ahead and click Save and Next here and jump into the specialty step. On the specialty step of the application, I'm able to indicate that I'm certified, in this case, as a nurse practitioner, the subspecialties of adult and acute care. If I choose certified registered nurse anesthetist or certified nurse midwife, those do not have those subspecialties, whereas nurse practitioner and clinical nurse specialists do. So you can see those are displayed and required based on that requirement. All right, we'll click Save and Next here to jump to our veterans fee waiver step. And you're going to see this functionality quite a bit over the next few steps. So I'll just kind of use this step as an example to talk through it. Here we have 3 questions. If you qualify, you're requesting a waiver of your initial credentialing fee. Now, in this case, I've answered no. However, if I were to respond with a yes, we would have an additional question requesting that we input that WDVA voucher code number into this field. And you can see that it's required. You're going to see this a lot in the declaration, an additional declaration step as well. Just wanted to kind of call it out here. So we'll go ahead and choose no there. We'll go ahead and use the Save and Next button to jump to our license history step. In our license history step, we're asked first to indicate any states in which we've been licensed. Now, in this example, this applicant has been licensed in Wisconsin, so I do have that one checked. I do have a none option if needed, but otherwise I can indicate as many states as I've been licensed in. Below that, we are able to identify the states in which we've been licensed by exam. And of course, in this case, where Wisconsin is the only state that I've been licensed in, I'm also going to indicate Wisconsin is where I've been licensed by exam. So click Save and Next here. That's going to take us into our first step of declarations. Our declaration step have a series of questions that we have to respond to. With each of those questions, if we indicate yes to any of them, typically we'll have a field and we'll be asked to share details about that response. In a couple of cases, we do have just instructions for additional forms that need to be submitted if responding yes to this question. All right, so I'm going to use the Save and Next button again. We're going to move now to our additional declarations. For our additional declarations, we have some definitions that are laid out in the top half of the screen. And so we have some very descriptive definitions of medical condition, chemical substances, illegal use of controlled and dangerous substances, and then some questions relating to those definitions. You'll notice with question number 11, I currently have it indicated with no. If I were to say yes, I am both required to explain as well as to respond to questions 12 and 13. Whereas if I click no, I'm not required to respond to those additional questions. So we'll go ahead and click save and next. Moving into our supporting document step. So here we can see we have a list of documents that could be required. We have some of those marked as absolutely required in all cases. I have gone ahead and uploaded some sample documents there. In order to upload a document, I can use one of these upload buttons. That's going to give me some information about the file size, what kind of files, and also let me know that multiple files can be uploaded. For example, here, I'll click on upload and we will grab a file to be uploaded. And once that file is uploaded, I can click close, and you can see now that file has been added to this list. In this instance, this is not the right file. I've made a mistake here, so I need to remove this, and I can do so using the trash can or delete icon here next to that supporting document. In the instructions that are given to the third parties, you're going to have instructions to come to the licensee portal, and they don't need to register or anything like that. They'll go to this third party document upload. And so they're asked to search for an application number, and on that form, the applicant will be instructed to fill out this application ID. So this application number is going to be how the third party references what documents they're submitting or what application they're submitting for. So we'll go ahead and take that individual application ID and paste it into the application number and search. And so that's going to show us what profession it is that's being applied for, as well as that application number. Once I have confirmed that, yes, this is the correct application that I'm trying to provide documentation for, I can use the select button. And now you can see there's a list of different documents that I can provide, which may or may not be coming from the same party. And so if I needed to provide this certification of master's or doctoral degree, I would use the upload button, which gives me our upload modal, and I would find a document to upload on my computer. Once it's uploaded, and then at this point, I can close the window. I don't really need to continue to stay here or save anything. At this point, when we view this application internally, we will see that that document has now been uploaded. So here is the certification or master's doctoral degree, and this is that file that I just uploaded. All right, so once we've uploaded all of our supporting documents that are required, we would then be able to use the Save and Next button, which would bring us to our attestation step. So here, Arthur would be able to indicate that he is a citizen or national of the United States, as well as provide his digital signature after reviewing all of the information and agreeing to sign. All right, so we'll use the Save and Next button here to enter our final step of the application flow, which is our payment step. From here, we're shown a table of what are the fees that are currently being charged, as well as some optional choices that we can make, including ordering a wall certificate or an expedited fee. In this instance, we'll just keep the base fees as the amount, and you can see here, it gives us a total amount at the bottom to be paid is $132. Now, in order to pay and submit this pay for and submit this application, I'm going to use this Pay and Submit button. All right, so when I click on the Pay and Submit step here, I'm going to be taken out of licensee for a moment and into the payment gateway. And so to complete my payment here, it does pull over information about the from the applicant's profile information is brought over. The phone number and email address does have to be typed. And then we can choose our payment method. We can take ACH debit as well as credit and debit cards. Once they've input all the information, I use the continue button to be shown a review step. Select the right state here. They're brought to a review step where they're able to review what is going to be charged and the rest of the information that's been provided, and then they can use the confirm button to make that payment. They're provided with their confirmation number, and then once they click continue, they'll be brought back into licensee and be displayed a success message there as well, letting us know that the payment's been received and the application has been successfully submitted. Along with that, I'm going to get a couple of other notifications. So one notification is going to be a confirmation that my application has been submitted, and the other is going to be a receipt from the system telling me about that payment. Once all applicant supplied documentation and third-party supplied documentation has been submitted, the application will be reviewed and hopefully approved. Once approved, licensees will then be able to log back into the licensee portal and print their license certificate by clicking on My Approved Licenses, using the action button next to the license for which they would like to download or print a certificate, and then using the View Certificate command. All we need to do is to click Download next to the type of certificate that we would like to download and print, and that certificate will then be displayed and can either be downloaded, printed, or both.
So with that, I thank you all for watching our video. I hope it provided some good information. I'm sure there are questions, and Casey and I stand ready and willing to answer as many of those as we can get through. So I'll turn the floor over to Jen.
Yes, we've already had a couple. First, how will this new platform affect license processing times?
License processing times in this new platform should be much quicker. One of the key differences in the new platform is when we're dealing with, in the current system, when we're dealing with paper applications, we have to manually associate incoming documentation oftentimes physically with that application. And so what that means is until we touch the material, we don't know what information is coming in for what applicant until it's sorted and associated with that application. In this new system, the information is automatically associated with your application as you upload it or as third parties upload it. And our staff is then notified that your application has new material and is ready for additional review. And so what that allows us to do is to be able to focus all of our staff effort on only those applications and applicants that are actively engaged in the process, and not having to touch every single application that is in the process.
Okay, Dan, we have another one. How does this new platform affect Act 10 licenses, and does it change the process? And for those who don't know that term, Act 10 is is another name for the temporary pandemic-related licenses that we've been issuing since COVID started.
The new platform does have the ability for folks to apply for an Act 10 in the platform. Act 10 licenses will currently do exist. Their expiration is tied to the federal public health emergency. That being said, Act 10 licenses will survive the pandemic. And in this new system, when in the very first screen, there was when you were clicking how to apply for the license, and it was licensure by examination, which is the common application method in Wisconsin. right below that was Act 10 licenses. Moving into the future post-pandemic, if you apply for an Act 10 license, you will have to simultaneously apply for a permanent license in order to be eligible.
Okay, Dan, this is a common question that we hear a lot. If someone has started an application and they submitted it before our cutoff date last Friday, should they start a new application in licensee? And will they be able to continue their application or monitoring their application in licensee when it launches on May 16?
They should continue working through the existing application process. The two systems are so dramatically different that there was too high a risk of error in trying to transmit current applications, which are partially in what I'll call a checklist electronic system. So our current system basically exists as and only has checklist functionality. The remainder of the back-end processing for our existing system is actually still a manual process. And so transitioning that into the new system would have created risks of losing information and losing documentation. And so you should continue working on your application in the existing system. We're working diligently to get through those applications as quickly as we can. I would not suggest starting a new application because it might end up creating confusion, which could further delay the application.
Okay, and then what about timing? Should students wait until after graduation to start applying in licensee if their graduation date is later?
Students should wait to the 16th to apply. At this point, we are in a period where we're not accepting new health applications. We are still processing all applications that have come in the door, and we continue to process renewals, and we continue to process all other types of applications, non-health applications. But for those new graduates, they should absolutely wait until the new system is live on the 16th. Most of the colleges in Wisconsin hold their graduation ceremonies the weekend before May 16th, so the 14th and 15th. And the vast majority of licenses, both temporary and permanent, folks are not eligible to be approved for those licenses until after graduation. And so we highly, highly recommend that they wait until after they've graduated to apply in the new system.
So Dan, this is a definition question, I guess, or terminology. When you talk about third parties, are colleges third parties, and what are some other third parties that typically interact with our agency and the application process?
That's an excellent question. So anyone who is not the applicant is considered a third party. And so that would be colleges, that would also be employers, that would be other states. So anyone, and it varies profession to profession what types of supporting documentation is required. But anyone who is required to submit application directly to the department on behalf of the applicant. And so in this state, we have statutory requirements called primary sourcing requirements, which simply stated is there are a number of documents and information that we are only able to accept directly from the institution or person who created that documentation, and the applicant cannot provide that. So what we've done here is we've created a separate portal. There, as they mentioned in the video, there's no login for that portal. The applicant will see inside of their application process what information third parties are required to provide on their behalf. And then there will be an instruction document that they will download. And at the top of that document, there will be a place for your applicant ID. So once you've submitted your application, you will receive an applicant ID, and then you will be able to put that applicant ID on that form and send that form to the third party who is required to submit information on your behalf. And they will then be able to use that applicant ID to submit that documentation directly to our system. So it is automatically and instantaneously associated with your application. And as I mentioned earlier, our staff will then get a notification that new information has been provided for your application, and they will go to that application to review.
Okay, Dan, now a question about renewals. Are renewals going to be included in licensee, and if so, when?
Renewals will be included in licensee. Health renewals, I believe, are going to go live by the end of July. Any renewals that are in process during that time frame will continue in the old system, and then on their next renewal, they will be included in the new system.
Okay, Dan, there's a whole series of questions again about those third-party upload steps, and a lot of them are asking whether, like, is this form one of those that would have to be uploaded? Is that form one of those that would be uploaded? Can you kind of speak universally to who is using that and what kinds of things they're submitting through that third-party upload?
Sure. So the easiest way to think about it is what the applicant engages with is the application. So just as we have now, we have application forms, and the process which was demonstrated in the video was really the process of the applicant walking through that base application form. As many of you know, there are subsequent forms that are associated with the application process depending on how the applicant answers questions inside the base application form. And so a good example of that would be criminal history. So if the applicant answers yes to criminal conviction or criminal history, then the system will populate I believe it's 2282 form that the applicant is required to fill out and submit. Similarly, if the applicant indicates that they didn't attend an accredited school, for some programs require specific accreditation, then the system will populate forms that the applicant's required to fill out and send to the department describing their educational history so that our board members can review their educational history and determine if it's equivalent to the accredited programming. So that's just a couple of examples of the types of things that might end up getting submitted. Some other examples include things like employment history. That's a big one for our physicians. Physicians often have multiple residencies in other states and at multiple hospitals and facilities. And so they in turn have quite a long employment history. License verification from other states. So if you've practiced in a similar field in another state and are required to submit verification of that license, that'll be another form that may be submitted. The third, probably or second most common one, would be hours verification. So for like our mental health fields, they're required to have supervised hours, and those supervised hours are required to be submitted directly by that supervisor. And so that would be a good example of a form that the supervisor would submit on their behalf.
So is it fair to say that licensee replaces that initial application form for the applicant, but other related forms and documents remain as they are and they will be uploaded into the system?
Yeah, that's correct. The gain in licensee is that those documents will be instantaneously associated with their applicant. And so that means that our staff will know immediately once that document's been uploaded that somebody who they're responsible to review has new information that needs their attention.
So in the process, the platform asks for previous licenses. And does that include any license, or are you just asking, has this person had this license in the past?
I believe that refers to any license, but I'm not 100% on that. So why don't we take that one back and verify that?
Okay. will colleges that are currently using Olas to update records be able to continue to use Olas for license applications?
They will continue to use Olas for those applicants who have submitted an application to us. If they are applying in the new system, they will need to use the document upload path. One thing I should make note of is that we are in the process of creating an FAQ and walkthrough specifically for colleges and universities that we'll be sharing out so that when it comes time to upload those documents on behalf of your applicant, you'll know how to proceed. The other thing that is worth noting is that as I mentioned at the start of the conversation, this process is really meant to be applicant driven. And so in the context of these third-party documents, what that means is the applicant will download the information that the third party is required to provide, and they will fill out sort of a top line section with, again, that applicant ID, which is how the system will key the information to their application. And then they will come to you and say, we've been provided this and you are required to submit this on our behalf. So the applicant will really drive that process forward and be notifying you of what they need you to submit on their behalf.
So in the past, some institutions would send our agency all of the documentation in a batch. They might fax them all at once or mail all the documents or email all the documents at once. And that seems easier for them than uploading to individual records. So will they be able to continue to do that?
In the short term, we will certainly work with colleges and universities as we transition to the new program. But in the future, the upload method will be the required method. I certainly see how it is easier on that side of the equation. What I will say is then it requires individually, manually associating those documents with our applicants, and that takes many, many hours across the many thousands of applicants that we have.
Okay, switching gears a little bit. If I'm applying for a license and I start, but don't have time to finish or need more information to finish, will it save and I can revisit it? And can I enter information in different spots and skip over things that I don't know? Or do I have to go sequentially through the steps?
The process will absolutely save. So as you transition screen to screen, the information shared on the previous screen will save. You will on the first pass have to complete all the required information. And so in order to be able to jump around. So you won't have to complete the app and submit the application right away. You can certainly stop at any one of the screens and then log out and be able to log back in and start where you left off. But in order to skip questions and come back, you have to supply all required information first before being able to move back to the previous screen.
Okay, and Dan, I'm going to repeat an answer to one just because it's come up again a couple of times, but so a couple more people have asked whether if you have an open application that was submitted before April 29th at noon, can you monitor that application status in licensee once it launches? And the answer is no, that those applications will be monitored and processed through our current system, and that only new applications submitted May 16th or later, I might have said March 16th, but May 16th or later will be able to be monitored in licensee, correct?
That's correct. One thing I would make note of is because not everybody's aware, but there is an application status portal in our existing system. And that is something that you can certainly check in on to monitor the progress of your application in the existing system.
So if I have a current license and I'm going to be renewing, say, next January, will I have to create my identity from scratch and re-enter all my information, or will the information attached to my current license transfer over for that renewal?
I don't. The answer is sort of a little bit of both. There will be some initial login required and some sign up required in the new system, but your existing license information will be transferred over to the new system. So to the extent that there are details that are relevant from that license, they will be a part of the new system.
And is it possible to electronically confirm graduation status versus uploading those documents? Is it like there's a button you can check and attest to, or does it have to be, does that verification have to be that paper form?
You know, I do think that that's an excellent idea, although in the short term that our electronic verification is an upload method. That is something that I know has come up a couple of times, and we are taking that one back and looking at potentially utilizing an electronic process in the future.
So here's a question about exams. Will state statute exams be accessible or linked to the new system, or how do those interact with the new system?
The examination software is not directly linked to the new system. You will, just as applicants do now, you will receive instructions on how to take the exam, and the results of those examinations, though, will be automatically linked to the system.
Okay, there's been a few more questions about specific forms that currently we use this form and submit it this way, or currently we use that form and submit it that way. Do we have to do this through the third party? So I think, again, to clarify that any of those supporting documents that have their own form or own requirement that are now sent in by an institution or an employer or a supervisor will be uploaded through that third party portion of the platform. Is that correct, Dan?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Let me see. We got a little caught up from where I was on my list. So another question about timings: should students wait until after they graduate? But I think you mentioned that licensee won't be active until May 16, and many will likely have graduated already. So by the May 16th date, it's like, even if you don't have your diploma or your transcript in hand, you can start your application.
Yeah, that's correct. It does allow you to, if you have a future graduation date, it will allow you to pick that graduation date.
Okay, and then another question about those forms verifying graduation status. Are they hard copy forms? Or are they available online?
I believe they're available both ways. I think primarily the way people access them now is by downloading and printing them. What the applicant will see, again, is a list of the forms that are required, both of them and of the third party. And the applicant will be downloading those forms and completing the top portion of those forms, which includes that application ID, which is how we will connect the submitted documentation to their application once it's submitted.
And so this is a question about some of those sequential licenses where you might have like an LPN, but then you later apply for an RN. And there might be similar requirements for both because some RNs don't have an LPN. So if I have one of those earlier licenses and I'm applying for a more advanced license, and I applied for my first license in the previous system, I apply for my new license and licensee, will I have to resubmit some of the documentation that I used for that initial license?
Once you have a login with licensee, you will have one login across multiple licenses. You know, at least initially, you certainly may have to refill out some of the information on the first login to licensee. But moving forward in licensee, if you apply for the LPN and you're going to an RN or an RN to an APNP, much of your personal information should be automatically filled in the new application. You may still have to resubmit some of the documentation depending on the length of time that it's been since your last application.
And then do you need to have a unique email address in order to apply through licensee?
You absolutely need to have an email address to apply in licensee. And actually, by state statute now, all of our applicants are required to provide an email address to the department to be used as one of the primary means of communication.
And then a renewal question, should current license holders get into the system on May 16 and create an account, even if they're not going to be renewing for a year or a year and a half? Does that give them a head start in the renewal process?
I would wait until your renewal window opens. We are going to be transferring existing applications to the new system in batches, and it would probably be a lot more effective and efficient to wait until your renewal window, because then we can guarantee that your existing application is a part of the system, or your existing license is a part of the system.
And then there's a question about nursing. Will we be using, I don't know how to say it, nurses, for confirmation of license from other states? It's an acronym, NURSYS.
Nurses. Well, I don't currently have visibility on that specific question. I think we'll need to take that back to the team and get an answer to that.
And then since we are launching with a portion of the licenses that we offer, do we have a timeline for when the rest of our licenses and renewals are going to transfer over to licensee?
As I sort of alluded to at the top, healthcare was top of mind given the impacts of the pandemic on the healthcare workforce, as well as the increasing volume of license applications that the department was receiving. Those new applications for healthcare will be going live on May 16th. Renewals for healthcare licenses will be going live by the end of July. And then we are working towards bringing the rest of the licenses that the department has into the new system, but I do not yet, as of yet, have a specific timeline for that.
And will educational institutions have access to Olas for those current open applications?
Yes, for the current open applications, they can use Olas.
Okay, and then how can educational staff or program coordinators or employers check the status of of an applicant's application? So it's not mine, but it's somebody I hired to work at my clinic. How can I check to see if that license has been approved or what the holdup is?
Absolutely. One of the things that's really nice with this new system, and the video didn't touch on it, but there is in the system what's called the due diligences list, and that's a tab. So when I, as an applicant, submit an application and log back into the system, I'll be able to click the second tab over, and it's the due diligences checklist. And if you go in there, it's literally a list of items that are either met or unmet. And if the item was submitted, but it remains unmet, there will be a note from staff alongside that item briefly explaining why that the documentation that provided wasn't sufficient. And so what we really encourage folks to do is to work directly with their applicants and our applicants to look for the status of their information. The applicant will always have access to the most amount of information possible. In terms of application status lookup, we are in the process of creating an application status lookup for that new system. It won't be live immediately on May 16th. It'll be I believe it'll be live by the end of July. But I highly encourage folks to work directly with their applicants for the most amount of available information.
So the Act 10 question was posed again. So can you clarify, Dan, does licensee replace the Act 10 forms, or can someone apply for an Act 10 license on a paper form and licensee, and or can they choose?
We are currently still accepting Act 10 applications. That is one of the new health application types that we will continue to accept throughout this transition period. In the new program, definitely encourage folks to use the electronic Act 10 license application process. Again, it'll be a lot more efficient and effective, both for the applicant and for our staff. But that being said, I'm not sure we would turn away a paper application specifically for an Act 10 application, given the emergency nature of those applications. That being said, when it comes to a standard application, the electronic application will be the method moving forward.
Does licensee affect apprentices?
None of the professions currently going into licensee involve apprenticeship licenses. Those will be a part of a later phase. If you have an apprenticeship license for your profession, then it will be in the new system at some point.
And then a question about those related forms and materials that schools and employers and supervisors will be uploading. Are those forms changing? Will they have different numbers? Will they have different versions? Will there be different information required? Or if you have a bunch of whatever that like education verification form printed out and you're going to fill it out by hand, can you use the existing ones?
The forms are staying substantially similar, but there are a few things that are changing on them. I think one of the key things that is changing is at the top of the form, there will be a place where the applicant can put their application ID number. That number is going to be critical for uploading that form to the system via the third-party upload. The other thing that's going to be changing with the form is there will be instructions on that form for whoever the applicant sends the form to in order to submit instructions on how to submit that form to the department via that third-party upload portal.
Okay, more questions about that third-party upload. So to clarify, students will get their ID that they need to provide to any third-party institution, employer or educational institution, and that third party will use that student or applicant ID to upload those documents, correct?
That's correct. When you go to the third-party upload portal, you'll be able to input the applicant ID and it will use that to identify if there's somebody in the system who has a pending application with the department. And if there is a pending application for that ID number with the department, you'll see that applicant's name populate just the way you would see things sort of pre-populate with predictive text. And you'll be able to click that name to confirm that it's your applicant. And then just as was shown in the video, a list of documentation that is required to be uploaded will populate, and you'll be able to pick from that list what documentation you're uploading.
So the third party just needs the number from the student, and then they can access and fill out the forms. The student doesn't have to collect the forms and send them to the third party.
So certainly, if the student and the institution or employer they're working with wants to sort of bypass the prescriptive process in that way, that will absolutely work out just fine. Our goal with the process as designed was to ensure that the applicant drove it forward. And so that's why we provide the opportunity for the applicant to pre-download and pre-fill out portions of the form that they then can provide to their submitting institutions to make that process as easy as possible.
Are other states using this exact system or other similar systems?
I'll let Casey speak more to that, but there are several states that I know our vendor MTX in particular is working with to implement systems just like this.
Yes, we do license systems with Salesforce. I think we're 26, 27 states right now. So a majority, maybe all, maybe not all, but most states are using Salesforce to do their business and professional licensing these days.
And then just to clarify that licensee replaces the paper forms for the applicants and that they won't be filling that out on paper and uploading it into the system, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then there've been a couple of comments more than questions about concern about the amount of time it will take for these institutions to upload documents individually rather than sending them in batches to the department. So are there opportunities for future innovation or refining to simplify that process?
Absolutely. This is certainly we're going to take feedback, both feedback we're getting now as well as feedback that we're going to get, I'm sure, in the future, and try and make improvements on the system over time. One of the really wonderful things about cloud-based systems is that they evolve with the processes and with the organization. And so instead of creating a system that might be obsolete 4 years from now, we're creating a system that can grow with the department and grow with the state of Wisconsin. And we're going to continue to look at improvements. And I can already confirm that batch upload is one of the items that we've already discussed.
And this came up again, I know you've spoken to it, but can employers and educational institutions check on this application status of their prospective hires and students?
Again, I'll encourage all third parties that may be working with an applicant to really work directly with that applicant. Our relationship as an organization is really with that applicant. And so they have access to the most amount of information possible on the status of their application. There will be an application status portal in the future as a part of the end of July release, but it will not be just in time with that May release. Now, if you have applicants who are applying in the existing system, the application status portal that we currently have will still be accessible during that time frame. And applicants who are approved for licenses in our new system will still be available to see their application or their license status, so their post-approval status on our application, not our application lookup, our license lookup portal that currently exists.
And how much information will be available in that application status lookup to third parties? So if I'm an employer, will I be able to see the tests that someone's already passed, whether they have licenses in other states or other documentation that has been submitted for that application? Will I be able to see any of that?
Sure. Again, I have to continue to stress that you should absolutely focus on working with your applicant and your hire to find out as much information as is possible about the application process. But that being said, I don't have a full list of the information that will be available in that portal, as we're still in the process of building that out.
And do third parties, so employers, educational institutions, do they need to create a login in order to use that application status information, or to access that, or to upload documents?
No, there is, for third parties, for people not submitting applications, there is no requirement of any sort of a login.
Well, we've actually gotten to the end of our questions. So we have 15 more minutes. So if anybody has anything that hasn't been covered, you can post it. I know that there have been some very specific questions and profession specific ones, and those are a little trickier to answer in a large forum like this. But if there is information that you still would like to have, we do have some time. Oh, this is one. Thank you for reposting, because I missed this. Are wholesale drug distributors included in the launch in May?
I believe the answer is no, but I'm hopefully going to look to Casey to confirm that for us.
Pulling up the list right now. Give me 2 seconds.
And then Dan, while she's looking, yes, they are included. Okay.
Oh,
I believe so. Yep. Yep.
This is again for current licensees when they when the new system launches, will I need to go in and create an account in the new system in order to check my own license to look to see what's there and what's attached to it? And another way to look at it is, if I have a license now and my license type is transitioning to licensee, and I do want to find out information, how do I do that in licensee?
Yeah, so if you have an existing license, I would use the existing systems in the short term to check the status of your license. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be transitioning existing licenses into the new system in batches. We're undergoing an extensive process to clean the data to make sure that it transfers seamlessly into the new system, and we'll be doing that in batches over the next several months.
Are you preparing any specific resources for third parties, so for educational institutions and employers, so that they can better navigate the system and better support their students and prospective employees?
Absolutely. We have a host of FAQ documents and walkthroughs and other supporting material that are coming out in, I believe, the next week or so. We, as I mentioned earlier, are working on a walkthrough specifically for the third-party upload process, because that is one that I know will be tangential to the application process, but not necessarily a process that the applicant themselves directly engages with. So we want to make sure that those third parties have specific information to help guide them through that process. In addition to the walkthrough, that information will be detailed on the material that the applicant will be requesting that the third parties provide.
Okay, Dan, is there anything that you want to elaborate on? I have a specific question that I'm going to respond to directly, but I don't have any other new ones that are coming in.
Yeah, I think it's important to just reemphasize that the process of building this and the thought that went into it was all designed with the applicant in mind, really empowering the applicant to be their own best advocate in navigating the process and in ensuring that their application is moving forward at the speed that works for them. When we were looking at moving to this new solution, one of the things that we were considering is, we know that the existing paper processes and manual processes don't work for our applicants, and they don't work for a modern world. I think one of the things that I love about technology is the ability to use my cell phone to really do and conduct almost all of the business I need to conduct. I can take photos of documents and send them to folks. I can make applications on my phone, and that our new system is going to be mobile ready, and you're going to be able to do all of this from your phone if that's how you so choose. So really, it was about getting this tool in the hands of our applicants, particularly our new graduates, as fast as possible. We know the existing system didn't work for them, and so we wanted to make sure that they had a system that worked for them as quickly as we could.
So Dan, another question came in. If I'm a third party and I'm trying to help my students, but I have some questions, who can I contact to help me and to answer my questions and help me figure out the new system?
Inside of the system, there will be help boxes where it will direct you to emails, specific email boxes for questions about the system. In addition to that, we have system-specific call center resources that will be available. You'll be able to call our main line, and then in the phone tree, there will be an option to choose if you have questions about licensee. And when you select that option, it'll transfer you to one of those technical call center resources.
And Dan, I'll just note something that I put in the chat. There have been a few questions about timelines for current applications, and I responded to everyone that if you have questions about a specific application, to mail those or to email those to me, and I shared my email, that it's really hard to give any meaningful answer generally to an entire group of people from different occupations. without knowing that information, we can look into those exact circumstances and find out what's going on. So I shared that in the chat for folks to follow up with me offline.
Thank you.
Okay, Dan, we have a correction from Casey. The wholesale prescription drug distributors are in a later phase, so they are not transitioning on May 16.
I apologize. I was looking at the wrong spreadsheet.
Okay. And then to clarify that businesses and trades and manufactured homes are not included in May 16.
That's correct.
Okay. And just, so Dan, do you want to have any other information you want to share? If someone is hearing from somebody in their office about their, and want to inquire about their license application on their behalf, what and how should they do that in the most effective way and efficient way?
If the application is in the existing system, you can certainly look at the application status portal to see the current status of the application. But otherwise, I would highly encourage you to work directly with that applicant to contact the department. It's their application process, and we certainly want to work directly with them to identify any concerns they may have. But really, the process is the applicant's.
And what about renewal timeframes? Will this affect when renewals open and how long they're open?
Renewals are remaining the same. As I mentioned earlier, any renewals that may be occurring during the transition of renewals to the new system will stay in the old system. And once your profession has been added to the system for renewals, so after July 31st for all health professions, then renewals that would open after that date will be a part of the new system.
Okay, we've gotten a few comments, but no more questions. Oh, will there be resources available? And I think we just talked a little bit earlier that we're putting together a set of resources that will be available online for third parties like employers and educational institutions, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And we'll be working to also get those out through various organizations, professional organizations, as well as collegiate organizations.
Okay. And I just want to make a point that we know we don't have the answer to every possible question in every possible scenario, but we are working very hard to put together resources that will help most. And we understand that there will still be questions that we need to answer during the launch and after the launch. That's part of why we're having 2 additional Q&A sessions after the launch, so that when we and you have identified new areas that might need clarification, we'll have the opportunity to share that information again in these larger forums, and then gather that information and use it to inform the materials that we provide our future applicants and third parties. So we encourage you, even if you attended one of these, to watch for the signups for those and register for those as well, or have a colleague register for one of those as well, so that you can benefit from the information that's shared. We will learn a lot during the launch, and we'll learn a lot from feedback from our applicants and people like you that are interacting with the system. And so that Q&A will be different, and we'll have updated information, and we hope it will build as we go, so that everyone will get more competence and confidence with the system as we go. Another question just came in, Dan, and we do have a few more minutes. How will name changes be handled in the new system?
Similar to the existing system, we will have to verify documentation around a name change. So there's an amendments process. So you'll be able to log into the portal, and then there will be a drop down where you can choose make an amendment. And name change is one of the amendments that you can make. And after filling out the new name, you'll be able to submit the associated documentation directly into the portal in your login, so that staff can review that name change.
Okay. We have 4 more minutes, so I think we have time for a couple of more questions if there are any still out there. Well, we will stay until 11:15, so this is an opportunity if there's still anything on your mind. And again, I'm posing questions more so than comments, but if you do pose a comment in the chat, we're going to capture everything afterwards and use it to inform our next steps. So you can leave comments there. We just may not discuss them. Well, it's gotten quiet. Again, we will stay, but for those of you who are starting to hop off, just thank you for your time today. Thank you for sharing your questions and your feedback. We know that this affects you, and we appreciate you taking the time and working with us to make the system work better. And I got a couple of thank yous, so thank you. And one of the questions earlier was, are other states doing this? And we've actually talked to a couple of the states that have implemented these processes. And while they acknowledge that, you know, any transition to a new system, it has its challenges, that they are in much better places after having done it. And so we're very eager to work through this process and get to a better place. That they're the ones the conversations that I've been exposed to, they're overwhelmingly satisfied and very happy that they made the effort and investment in moving to an online platform like this. Do you have anything on that to add, Dan? Because you've been in more of those conversations than I have.
Yeah, I think you know, the ease of use and transparency of process is really what you get out of this, in addition to the sort of the applicant driven nature of these processes, right? We're no longer relying on individual state staff to collect and hand enter information on your behalf. You'll be empowered as an applicant to enter all of your own information and ensure it's verified and correct before moving on to the next step. And that makes the process so much simpler and so much cleaner, not just for you as the applicant, but also for us as the staff, as they review the material you're submitting as a part of your application. I can't stress enough the pride that our staff take in being able to work with applicants to identify questions and answer questions. And this system really puts us in puts us in a position to focus on working hand in hand with our applicants to answer that question, instead of being focused on things like data entry and document association. And so that it's going to be a big win for our applicants, but also a big win for our staff.
Yeah, and one of the comments that just came in, Dan, was about that people are frustrated that they can't reach our staff. But to Dan's point, when the same staff who answer questions and deal with applicants are also the ones who are doing data entry and document matching, that's a lot of time that they can't spend interacting with applicants. And by eliminating that step of the process for our staff, and it eliminates the risk of error, and it gives them a lot more time to do that customer service that we know our applicants want, and we don't have the capacity with our current staff and resources. And our staff also would much rather be doing that work than the data entry. So it will be better on both sides, and the service will improve. We have to get through the process to get there, but it's a limitation when the same staff have to do all of those tasks. And this will narrow the list of tasks that they have, and they can do the more meaningful ones for our customers. So we're at 11:15. I'm going to stay to the end as people hop off, but thanks again for coming. And again, watch for your emails. Watch your emails for the follow-up and the opportunity to register for future sessions. And use that link in the follow-up that we send to sign up for licensee updates. Whenever we send out a press release or make other materials available, you'll get an email about it so that you don't have to periodically check our website. So I encourage you to do that. And thanks again for coming, and have a great day.